Have you ever seen a movie where it takes you days to properly convey everything into words because of how overwhelming it is? That's the case for me and Brady Corbet's 3.5 hour American epic, The Brutalist. Now, I'll say, I saw this movie over a week ago at this point, and I was planning on reviewing it the next day and putting the review out, but I just could not because I was thinking about so much. I had to let it marinate in my head. I had to go and see it a second time a couple days ago before I can properly convey everything. And I'll just say it, I loved everything about this movie. The film follows architect Laszlo Toth, played by Adrien Brody, who immigrates to America following World War II, and here he starts working for capitalists, namely Harrison Van Buren, played by Guy Pearce, and he's looking up. He is trying to find the American dream. And this first half of this film, boy, is everything looking up. Like, there's a couple things here and there, mainly his relationship with his cousin Attila and Attila's wife, that provide for some friction along the way, but for the most part, everything has a sort of optimism to it in this first half. It's a really interesting exploration of an immigrant coming to America and being ready to start new right there when they get off the boat. And you can see that in Laszlo's face when he gets off and he sees the Statue of Liberty. So it's really interesting to find him going along this way, trying to build the stuff that he wants, produce the art that he wants to produce. And when he comes into contact with Mr. Van Buren, everything starts to look good for him. And as the first half is going along, while everything is going more or less according to plan, you, the audience, still feel this tension, this dread for what's to come, because you can feel that there's something that's going to go wrong here and snap. And in the second half, boy does it ever. And I really love where the second half of this film goes. I've seen a lot of people say that they think the second half pales in comparison to the quality of the first half, and I really have to disagree with that. Yes, the first half is far more easier to get into, far more digestible, but when you get that intermission, it lets you reset. And when you get into that second half, boy, does it get real dirty and grimy for the character of Laszlo, even though that in the second half comes the arrival of his wife Elizabeth, played by Felicity Jones. You would think that this would start to get even better for him, but her arrival kind of causes him to realize that not everything is all nice and shiny and glamorous as it seems. There's a lot under the surface that he's getting oppressed, much like he was and his family was in Europe during the war. So it's a real interesting thing here when Elizabeth comes in and she is that reminder to him that the American dream that he has been sold along working for Van Buren is not what it seems. And honestly, with people saying that the second half is a dip in quality because it's far more challenging, I think that the second half, the way the tone switches from first to second half, is 100% needed with what Brady Corbet is trying to say. The second half is where he makes his statement, so to speak, because if the first half is this nice exploration of the American dream and the immigrant coming to America's optimism for their future in America, the second half is just a complete destruction of that myth. America is always sold as this place where if you come here, you can work hard and you can make it. But this second half really shows how much that is bullshit. And I really also like the parallels that Corbet uses to tell this between patron and artist, American capitalist and immigrant, because the patron, Guy Pearce's character Van Buren, lacks creativity despite his immense wealth, and he envies Laszlo's creativity. He can add such beauty into the world, and Van Buren is so envious of that he is taking possession of Laszlo's art and slapping his name on it, and taking possession of Laszlo himself, so to speak. So this parallel between that and the immigrant experience in America, where the capitalist is taking everything that the immigrant's labor is and slapping their name on it for their profit, all while continuing to oppress the immigrant, is such a poignant parallel. And there really is so much to dig into here that I just can't in such a short review for this film. I could go on for an hour talking about everything in here, but I just really love how that first half sets you up with the American dream, and the second half is the complete collapse of its facade. And where it goes with the epilogue, I was not sure about the epilogue when I first watched the film. It felt so jarring to cut where we did into that, because the epilogue feels so alien from the rest of the film. But that's incredibly intentional, because the final statement of the film, which a lot of people are really misinterpreting, feels completely alien to what the entire film was doing. And that is incredibly intentional. I do not think you're supposed to take that last statement at face value. It's another case of the personhood of Laszlo and his art and everything he has done being co-opted for something else that is not there, that is not true or moral or just. The storytelling is spectacular. I was really surprised with how much more of a storytelling film this is, because I thought this was just going to be some feat of direction, and it definitely is, but the writing is just as important for what this film is and what it's trying to do. And I could not be more impressed with the script of this film. Fully realized characters coming through and all of their intentions. It is really magnificent work. And bringing these characters to life is such a major part of this film. The acting from the entire ensemble is incredible. Guy Pearce creates such a cold and callous villain who does not care about anyone who he deems beneath him, but there's something else in there, and you can see it, and it's really important for Guy Pearce to convey this sense of Van Buren being all big and mighty on the surface, but when you dig into him, there's nothing there. He's hollow. And it's really important in a couple scenes for Pearce to convey that, and he does a great job with that. Felicity Jones, I also think, does such a wonderful job here. The fact that she was even on the edge for an Oscar nomination is just silly, in my opinion. She really stole the show in a lot of scenes in the back half. The climactic scene at the end of the second half in particular, I really thought she did great. She did great in a couple other real emotional scenes with Adrien Brody's Laszlo in there as well. And speaking of Adrien Brody, what a phenomenal performance. Adrien Brody has always been such a fascinating actor to me, because he had The Pianist really early on in his career, and then really the rest of his career, some misses, and he's been popping up a lot in Wes Anderson films, so he really hasn't come out with such a towering performance like The Pianist until now. He delivers the best performance of the year. I don't know how you watch this film and come out thinking otherwise. He is just phenomenal. Brody just really pours his entire soul into this character. I mean, you can feel every emotion of Laszlo Toth by just looking at Brody's face. He doesn't even need to say a word without you knowing what he is trying to convey. It is just masterful stuff, really. Like I said, the best performance of the year, even in comparison to his castmates who are putting in some career best work. And of course, I can't talk about this frickin' massive ass film without talking about the technical elements. I mean, the editing, perfect. I'm surprised the editing was even on the edge of getting a nomination because I did not feel the 3.5 hour runtime either time I saw this movie, and most of the time with long runtimes, I especially feel it on my second go around, but it did not hit me on either watch. The intermission, I think, helps a lot with that. Obviously, having a 15-minute period where you can just get up, stretch, go to the bathroom, look at your phone for a couple minutes, it really helps a lot. And it also helps you reset because that first half is going at a really nice pace. The second half is able to slow down and get a lot darker. The cinematography from Lowell Crowley shooting on VistaVision, I mean, everything looks like a painting. It is really remarkable stuff to be able to capture all of this the way he did. Daniel Blumberg's score, like, I'm going to have to listen to every score Daniel Blumberg does from now till the end of his career because this is remarkable work. He captures that optimism in the first half and that darkness in the second half. I mean, and the switch in the score in the epilogue as well to go with how that feels so alien to the rest of the film. Really good work. And like I've already conveyed, all of this is made possible by Brady Corbet in the director's chair. I mean, what a job. What a fantastic job. Like, I haven't seen a better directed American film in quite a while, even in comparison to some of the year's best from the last few years. This stands on another level. So overall, I think The Brutalist as a whole just works perfectly the way the film is structured in the first half and just going down in the second half. Everything worked for me. I understand why some people aren't going to be able to get into that second half and get into the epilogue because they are far more challenging, a little bit more jarring than that first half. But for me, everything worked, and I felt like everything that was done worked perfectly for the story and the themes that Brady Corbet was tackling. So I would give The Brutalist 5 stars. Well, that's it for my review of The Brutalist, everybody. What did you think of this one? Did you think this was one of the best films of the year like I did? Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments, and if you liked what you saw here today and you would like to see more, subscribe to follow the odyssey that is Oscar season.